Kash Patel has taken over as the 9th director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. He's the first person of Indian origin to hold this office. Not surprising for the Trump administration, which has seen the largest number of PIOs, people of Indian origin, in top positions. Kash is a hardcore Trump loyalist, though extremely controversial in the United States. He's been called a conspiracy theorist for his podcasts. But he's got through the Senate with a narrow 51-49 vote. Kash Patel is FBI chief at a time when Khalistani elements have attacked Indian consulates in San Francisco and preached violence against Indian diplomats in the name of freedom of speech. The Biden administration has been sitting on a list of 64 fugitives whom India wants to be extradited from the United States. Now, the FBI, which is the US equivalent of 3 Indian agencies, the Intelligence Bureau, the CBI, and the NIA, is the agency responsible for extraditing these fugitives. So, is Kash Patel going to do as India seeks of the United States, the extradition of all of these bad characters? Is he going to be good for India? Joining me on the News 9 Plus show now, Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director of the IB, Navneet Rajan Wasan, former DG BPR&D, and in the studio, my colleague, News 9's Executive Editor, Aditya Raj Kaul. Gentlemen, welcome to the News 9 Plus show. Aditya, when is the last time we saw the White House put out a Bollywood movie meme to welcome an incoming FBI director?
Well, it seems that this Trump administration is going to be different in every possible sense of the term. It is going to bring in a lot of color, a lot of direct speech, not mincing any words. And I think this video was already under production for already weeks, and they were waiting for that opportunity to put out this Indian song and this AI generated, Kash Patel in that song as the lead actor.
Kash Patel as Ranveer Singh.
Is Ranveer Singh trolling the Democrats?
Yes.
A Republican trolling the Democrats. But on a serious note, while the Indian left is going tom-tomming and saying that, Indians are celebrating this because he's a Hindu and is of Indian origin, that's not it. The bigger point here, Sandeep, is that the ideology of Kash Patel, his thinking, his viewpoint matches with the Modi government. It matches with India's national interest. And that's the top priority. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because on terrorism, on radicalization, on drug dealers and cartels, absolutely same kind of mindset. I mean, Kash Patel is also someone who came out openly admitting and supporting the Ram temple construction in Ayodhya and lambasting the US media and saying that they were not presenting the right picture to the audience in America. They were not saying that there is a centuries old history of roots of Hinduism in Ayodhya, and they were just mincing their words and talking about the Babri dispute. And finally, the bigger question of extradition. Tahavur Rana has already happened, but now as FBI director, and also Tulsi Gabbard as that second Hindu in the administration as the Director of Intelligence, will have a larger say on how to tackle this menace jointly with India and how this extradition could smoothly happen.
How the extradition could smoothly happen, Aditya? There's a list of 64 fugitives wanted from the United States. And Yashovardhan Azad, there's a long list of 64 bad characters that we want from the United States. It's the maximum number from any country, as the Minister of State for Home has mentioned. Give us an idea why you think the US has been sitting on these extradition requests for so long. Some have been pending for decades.
Well, our record in extradition has not been very good, except for very, very simple cases for which there are no problems. The extradition happens, but even if you look at UK, Nirav Modi, Malia, these are just a no-go. And despite the lower courts doing it, there are appeals, and in fact, somebody is already saying that Rana still has some appeal which we have to still, wait for. Now, in the case of US, there are some very important fugitives. You're right. We need Goldie Brar. I mean, there's one, Harjot Singh. He's also responsible for terror funding and things like that. You see, the first problem is, of course, that many of the things which we submit earlier were not taken very, very seriously. And even if see a very important case of even Tahavur Rana. I mean, he was indicted, he was arraigned for that Danish newspaper. But he was freed in this particular case when he was offering every service to David Headley.
Yes.
And he was a known sympathizer of LET.
Yes.
So it's difficult to, get past these courts with such exacting kind of standards and requirements which they want,
Right.
which may happen even in the cases of these other fugitives we are talking about.
Right.
So that's one very important thing. But what is very encouraging, as you said, is that Kash Patel is a hardliner.
Yes.
He's an absolute. He may be a Trump loyalist, but he also looks at the interest of America, that we don't want any immigrants
Yes.
who are here illegally. We don't want any terrorists. We don't want any propagandists. So that is a welcome sign for us,
Yes.
which means that unlike the Biden ministry, which may take time because they're the
Yes.
bureaucracy also as bad as ours. So they just sit on it.
Yes.
In this particular case, there'll be no delay at all, and the Trump administration and Kash Patel would be able to extradite. My only issue is the courts. Now, how they see our cases, that has to be seen. And let me add in the end, Sandeep, that it is extremely disappointing that despite being a strategic ally,
Yes.
Headley, he was responsible for the killing of all those, and even foreigners especially,
Yes.
on Indian soil, and who has almost regurgitated everything about the handler, Sajid
Yes.
Mir, ISI, the works, every evidence, and yet we were not able to get him.
We're not able
And
to get
because-
him in, despite several attempts to, ask for his extradition, and he remains there. He's in prison. You believe that we could actually make another attempt to extradite David Headley under the Trump administration?
I'm sure we are trying to do that. You see, because by the time he's released, he'll be 88 years
Yes.
old. Still, of course, we should try at that particular time.
Right.
But before that, it's very important, because the very fact that Tahavvur Rana has been extradited
Yes.
with our evidence, because he was released in the courts over there.
Yes.
Right? He was acquitted in this crime. Then more the reason why David Headley should be there, because David Headley in camera, here when the proceedings take place, and each and every Pakistani handler and Pakistani operatives are with us, at
Yes.
least that dossier will be complete to show to the whole world.
Yes.
And as it is, we have a cast iron case, because Headley has already given that to the US authorities. And because of that only, whatever, sham of a trial or whatever was done
Yes.
in Pakistan.
Yes.
But all in all, I would certainly say it's an encouraging time with Kash Patel there and Trump.
Encouraging time with Kash Patel in the Hoover building, and with Trump, of course, in the White House. Navneet Wasan, do you believe that India could make the case for the extradition of David Headley, as Yashovardhan Azad was saying? I mean, we have tried in the past several times, but he was sentenced by the US courts to a 30-year jail sentence, 35 years. But can we expect for a new extradition proceeding to begin, which the NIA, your former agency, could then follow up with the US government?
See, we must remember one thing, that extradition is a legal process.
Yes.
Basically, this is a process in which the courts decide whether they will extradite somebody or somebody other. And we do have extradition treaty with USA. Now, any case of extradition depends how well we present our case to the US authorities and US courts, because Department of Justice is the the agency to whom we approach. It is not the FBI.
Yes.
We coordinate with DOJ and not with FBI. FBI may be executing agency on behalf of DOJ
Yes.
in USA. But you see, any extradition will depend, as I said earlier, how well I present the evidence convincing the courts in USA.
Yes.
Of course, the case is fought by the FBI and US authorities. How tight, how solid is my evidence produced there?
Yes.
And in case of David Headley, so David Headley could not be extradited. Our extradition proceedings didn't start because he entered into a plea bargaining agreement.
Yes. Yes.
That he shall not be extradited in this case, in this related matter, to India. And it is only after he entered into plea bargaining agreement that he was sentenced there and no extradition proceedings started. We can make an attempt, but you see that attempt will depend on the legal position in USA. What is the legal, the leeway which we have in USA?
Right.
And as you said, a number of extradition requests are pending. See, our difficulty in India is that while making any extradition request, we have to understand law of the country to which we are sending our extradition request.
Yes.
And how well we do it. See, our difficulty is we don't do our homework properly, and we do not come up to the standards which is required by the courts of that country, whether it may be USA or any other country. So what is required is that when I am preparing a dossier, I'm sending an extradition request, I have to do my homework absolutely pakka, so that, as my co-panelist Mr. Azad said, that we can meet the exact standards of those courts.
Absolutely.
That is extremely.
Yes, extremely important indeed, Navneet Rajan, and stands to reason that the government would be doing that, especially in this case. But, Aditya, I want to come over to you now that when Prime Minister Modi visited the White House, there was a list of 10 fugitives that was given to the Trump administration. Do you have any idea which names were on this list?
Well, we are not aware of all the names, but as you said, there are 64 names that have been pending for a very long time. That's a massive, massive list. It does seem that there are a lot of technicalities, and as my co-panelist said, legal hurdles in that entire process. It is the courts ultimately. But as it may be, the courts may be having the final word. But I think the conviction and also the sense of responsibility and the sense of direction that the Trump administration will have against terrorism, against drug cartels, against any illegal immigrants, that will have a larger say on the extraditions that will take place. So the 12 that were handed over this time around by the agencies with their counters there included people like Anmol Bishnoi of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang.
Right.
It included other names also who have been involved in gangland violence, particularly in Punjab, but in other states as well. There are also Goldie Brar, who was involved in the killing of a very prominent singer not so long ago in Punjab as well. And there have been accusations against the government that the government has been hand in gloves with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang to also make matters more clear, to bring in clarity and transparency. The government has brought in these names that we want extradition of these characters. We are not in favor of these gangsters operating either from the US or the Canadian soil.
Right.
And we want some kind of a legal movement on this entire process. And the extradition of Tahawoor Rana, when it actually takes place, will be a huge, huge message, not just for the people in India, but globally against terrorism, particularly in Pakistan, which is now planning to again reignite terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right, absolutely. A huge message for the world, the extradition of Tahawoor Rana. But, Mr. Azad, I will read out the statement that was read out in the White House when Prime Minister Modi was there, where basically the joint statement called on Pakistan to ensure that its territory is not used to carry out cross-border terror attacks. It named the Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, Jaish, Lashkar-e-Taiba as the foremost threats to peace and stability of India in the neighborhood. Now, this is a very significant statement coming out of the White House. Given the fact that now you have an FBI director who, as Aditya said, is not only pro-India, but he is a pragmatist. He doesn't hold any brief for any terrorist or any drug trafficker based on, freedom of expression. Do you see this as changing this entire dynamic between India and Pakistan as seen through the eyes of the United States?
I do. I think, as Aditya already said, that Tahawoor Rana's extradition is a huge, huge encouragement to this direction which we have taken. And, I saw the second line that's very significant, which you just read out, that they also asked Pakistan to desist from any kind of support to these. And that's why, I think, Sandeep, that this, our Mumbai attack case is a test case. And, here is one case where there is a rock solid evidence. Let me also say, what Navneet said to add to his point is that at least now our NIA dossiers are much better.
Yes.
the earlier evidence which you used to, because NIA over the years is doing a good job. And he has got solid dossiers against people. In this Mumbai attack case, people who are the ISI handlers, people who were the trainers, there were two trainers also.
Yes.
It is very important to get them. And to get them, we must persist with trying again to get Headley's here. Let's see what the courts decide in terms of the actual gravity of crime which took place in Indian soil against the testing the strength of that plea bargain which was done, or because he was an asset of the deep state or whatever.
Yes.
Let's see. It's quite possible that some court just might agree to that. And what is very important, and Aditya also mentioned, is the attitude of the government there now under Kash Patel and Trump. Whenever in the courts, when they give statements, definitely it won't be as negative as earlier.
As it was in the past, yes.
Yes, as it was. So I do hope, as you said, that there is a new trend, and I expect something much, much better this time.
Right, absolutely. And Navneet Wasan, the point that you made about the FBI earlier on, the fact is that, of course, it is the implementing authority for extradition, it's executing authority, but could some new evidence come to light? For instance, if the FBI shares new evidence in the Mumbai attacks, 2611 case, could that strengthen our case for extraditing some of these key people like David Headley, for instance? What is the role that the FBI plays? Give us an idea about what exactly the FBI does when it comes to terrorism and counterterrorism efforts in the United States.
See, as you said in the beginning of the show, that FBI is something of Intelligence Bureau, CBI, and NIA built, 3-in-1 agency in USA. So FBI is extremely important for us. Our relations with FBI, because we can exchange information, we can exchange evidence, because it is the FBI which, on behalf of DOJ, gathers evidence on our request and passes on to India for use of evidence in Indian courts, as well as in the courts while having an extradition trial in USA. So the role of FBI is certainly, it cannot be emphasized more. It is extremely important. And with a person like Kash Patel there and the US administration supporting the anti-terrorism cause, supporting India, I'm sure it's going to make a lot of difference. The cases will progress fast because somebody will take interest in USA. They will pass on the evidence. Our request will be taken with much more seriousness as against in the past. And I am hopeful that with the present dispensation in USA and the NIA and other agencies are doing good job, we should see a better times as far as bringing culprits to the book.
Yeah, better times indeed when it comes to bringing culprits to the book, Aditya. You have a point to make on this.
Yeah, definitely. The approach point that Yashovardhan also mentioned, the mindset change is very important. And I want to go back to what Dr. Jaishankar said at the Munich Security Conference. He said that US, he didn't name US, but he blamed the Western powers of supporting non-democratic actors, non-democratic governments in the global South. What he actually meant was examples of Pakistan and Bangladesh. And he said it's been happening for years and it's happening even now. That means that the US deep state has been continuously supporting Pakistan and this time around Bangladesh as well. But under Trump administration, it's likely that that approach is going to change. If I can take you back to the first, I think first week or first month of the first Trump administration, where he tweeted against Pakistan and he had said that the entire defense arrangement with Pakistan is going to end. By the end of the Trump administration, again things smoothened up between Pakistan and US. But it does seem that right now is not that time where Pakistan will get that long rope again. And things in Bangladesh are going to change as well. And I think not just countries in the Middle East, but US also realizes that when it comes to trade, when it comes to economic cooperation, when it comes to strategic alliances in the global South in South Asia, it's India and no other country in the region.
India and no other country in the region, of course, and the kind of statements that have been coming out of the White House are very heartwarming, Aditya. I can't recall the last time a US president was so pro-India and actually packed his cabinet with so many people of Indian origin and people who believed in the India story. But Yashovardhan Azad, you know, what is the difference really between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0? You know, it's the same president, but he seems to have come this time around with a more focused agenda, with a bigger team which he wants to implement his radical reform. And that's where people like Kash Patel become so important.
In fact, you know, I think the 4-year period when Trump was out of power did him a lot of good, because that's the period when to come back, he sort of is mapped out everything. And you could see that in that period, while he was criticizing Biden on every possible issue, he was also letting out his own views, and you know, which were taking shape in the form of a foreign policy, domestic policy. And as soon as he came, in fact 15 days earlier, his coinage of terms and doge and all these things were coming out furious and fast. So I would say he has a very focused agenda, and in terms of India, he has tremendous hopes of a strategic ally, trade, defense, I mean the works. Intelligence agencies cooperation now will be at a much higher level, much more intense and close. Intelligence sharing will also deepen. And in fact, as Navneet said, FBI also helps us in getting us information like we do, cooperate on various subjects. But this time it's going to be more intense, more focused. So a much better time, I would expect.
Much better time indeed. And Yashovardhan Azad, since you've been actually there, you were the points person as well with the United States for some time. Give us an idea on when you say much more intelligence cooperation. What do you mean by that? Is it more specific intelligence alerts, or generally a positive attitude towards India, and therefore you really want to help the relationship grow stronger through?
The second part is very important, more positive and more hopeful kind of approach, looking towards India and expecting also better things, expecting better cooperation from us. Intelligence cooperation alerts are definitely there. In fact, US intelligence inputs are available to whenever it relates to this particular part of the country, and we do the same. There is a collaboration in training. There is a collaboration in procedures. There is a lot of networking on various here. But this time it's going to be more focused. It's going to be aligned with the interests. You know, there are focused areas which we see, and I think more this time on Pakistan. I think there should be a much better productive. One important thing which Aditya said, and I must mention it. There was always this attitude of, the deep state, or, the CIA, whether it's Bangladesh, whether it's CIA. But this time you saw it that there was a lot of criticism coming about the treatment of Hindus in Bangladesh by many of the senators there. And therefore that shows that things are changing. And that's why I say that it is more the positive attitude of Trump administration, which will give a lot of benefits than any other, institutions, because they remain the same more or less.
Right. Institutions remain the same, but the positive attitude of the Trump administration, of course, is much more important when it comes to the India-US relationship. But Navneet Wasan, in conclusion, do you see any other benefits coming out of a Trump-Kash combo at the White House for India when it comes to national security and terrorism?
See, one very, very important aspect which we must remember, with Trump being there in the seat and Kash Patel as FBI chief, one of the most important thing which I think is going to happen is the speed with which they will share the intelligence and collect evidence and transfer it to India. The speed is the essence of any criminal trial. Because generally we have suffered because the either intelligence is shared after a lag of time, or the evidence is collected with very, very, lackadaisical approach. And by the time we get evidence, and we really can't use it. So it's the speed with which we exchange the information and the evidences, which is going to be extremely important for both countries.
Right. Speed is going to be key to the relationship between the two countries, and Kash Patel might just be the man who could make that happen. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Aditya, for joining us here on News 9 Plus show.